Everyone, it's time for my second crack at a podcast. Looking forward to catching up with yourself today, Josh, talking flooring specifications.
Yep. And are we really going to talk about flooring specifications, or are we just going to have an arm wrestle? I think we could just sort this one out with an arm wrestle.
I was going to say we're going to talk about it. I didn't say we're going to agree on flooring specifications, but we're certainly going to talk about it. Flooring specifications. Are you ready?
I was born ready, Mike.
Let's get into it. Good morning, Josh.
Morning,
how are
Mike.
you?
I'm well, thank you, Mike. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, very well. My second podcast. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And
So am I.
I won't say my favourite guest, but my second guest, because Tim was my first guest. But
you never forget your first.
Never, absolutely never. So today we're going to be talking about specifications, and I guess just to clarify a little bit by saying flooring specifications.
Yeah, right.
So I guess we should start off with, when we talk about flooring specifications, what are we actually talking about? So people can understand what we'll be discussing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess there's two sides to that when you say flooring specifications. Mm-hmm. So a specification would normally refer to a system, mm-hmm. okay, that comes from a manufacturer of types. Mm-hmm. And so we get a specification that goes into a construction plan, mm-hmm. and usually put in there by an architectural firm. And then this comes out as part of the brief that, in this particular project, the floor will be X for whatever it could be called. Mm-hmm. And this is the system that it will be. So it will outline how that is actually installed on site. So if you're the contractor, you would receive the contract for that project, and it would say you'll start at this metal and you'll use this. Sometimes they're as specific as they say. They'll tell you what machine that you're using, what type of tool that you're using, and then each step of the process until the outcome is achieved. Mm-hmm. And that's a fairly typical specification that they get, that they can get that specific. Mm-hmm. Some of them are a whole lot more loose, where they'll just say, it needs to be this type of finish. Mm. And it might just say it needs to be taken to an 800 grit finish. Mm-hmm. That's a really loose specification. So it's a pretty broad spectrum. And then we have, of course, specifications where it actually says what the system is. So for argument's sake, if WORX Plus had a system, a flooring system, it would have a strict specification and guidelines to follow to achieve a certain outcome. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I know. Look, I know I've worked in other industries with building plans and looking at plans, and certain specifications have got to be adhered to. Would I be right in saying maybe when it comes to like a finishing sealer and that sort of thing, they can get quite specific, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's two sides to specifications. Of course, there's a need for it in one sense, like you say, upholding a particular standard and that sort of stuff, mm-hmm. which is quite pertinent with a lot of trades. And then you've got the architect or the designer who wants to achieve a certain specific outcome. Mm-hmm. Now, they don't understand everyone's trades, but they know what they want to see in the environment that they've created. So someone who's able to tell them, this is a glossy brochure. If you want that, you call this product this. Mm-hmm. That's what you put into the design brief. So that's helpful for the architects when they're trying to achieve a certain type of outcome. But like I said, they're not experts in every trade, so they need some guidance. Then you also have it when a builder goes out to bid, and they want contractors to quote on doing this type of finish and achieving this outcome that the architect had in mind. So in that scenario, they all need to be quoting the same thing, so that they're actually getting the same outcome that the architect's trying to achieve. So it's trying to keep everyone on the same page. Does that answer your question?
It does. So I guess that was the next thing I was going to ask, is why we might want to have the specification, which you definitely covered there. I guess this whole topic was, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? to have, and I guess there's probably good and bad with it.
Yeah.
And I suppose from what you've just said about having a specification, it's a way that they can have something set in concrete, if you like, that they can cut and paste from one job to the next, and there's an allowance there and that sort of thing. So I suppose it would sort of help in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's maybe sort of the good aspects of it. What are some of the not as good aspects of it, would you consider? I mean, there's variations in, it seems like variations are pretty rife in what we sort of do in our industries, as far as I think we all know that no two floors are the same, and different floors require different things and things like that. So that can probably be a little bit of a negative thing. And
I think you just answered all of your own questions. Thanks for joining us today,
great.
Mike.
Thanks very much, Charles.
And like you said, the intention is to ensure that we get a particular outcome for a project, and how do we get there? So it's supposed to get us to an outcome. But like you say, the difficulty or the complexity of this particular problem is that not every concrete's the same. Not one slab is the same. The materials are never identical, or they could be very close, but the conditions will never be the same. From one day to the next, you will never find the same conditions. So concrete will never be the same. So you actually need to have someone on a project that has the capacity to interpret what's in front of them and create the type of outcome that the architect or the owner is after. So this can't always be achieved just by following, a plan of steps, and so that's I guess that's the difficulty to it that I see from that perspective. And the other one is that, for me, it's you as an architect or as a builder, or an owner, you probably just want to have something that's more an outcome based.
Like you mentioned earlier, with just a particular finish specified rather than a how to. Yep. And is this sort of where your hyperfloor and superfloor and those sorts of things, is that where these sort of stemmed from for this purpose, or?
They come. So I would say that they have. They come a lot more from the pioneering stages of polished concrete, superfloor and hyperfloor, and there are a couple of other systems out there as well. Not as quite as common. The main purpose for those during the pioneering stages was that people had no idea what polished concrete was, and people had seen grind and seal for maybe 2 or 3 years before those systems hit the road, and so there had to be something that could basically, you could tell just by the type of system that specified that this was not a grind and seal, and so they were really used in order for marketing and for education of builders, architects, and that sort of stuff. That there was a completely different flooring system out there, and if you just look at the breakdown of it, there's 13 steps in this system. This is not grind, seal. Okay, so we're talking about a very, very different approach, and it's a very different system. It's a premium system, and that's why there's a whole specification around this.
And when we start talking specifications, I guess it starts maybe painting people into a bit of a corner, or a sort of pigeonholing people a little bit as to what they've got to do to be able to achieve. It doesn't leave much wiggle room to sort of do something different to get that end result. Would you agree with that? Is that?
Excuse me for a second. Me. You can cut that bit out. Have my permission. Okay, so this is where I start to get excited, Mike.
Yes.
Because this is, to me, when it becomes a bit debatable.
Yep.
Because, as we already discussed, no two materials are the same. So it's very, very difficult to have an expectation that if I'm over here in my office, I can write a specification for a project that hasn't even been poured yet. And all of my specifications may be based on a best case scenario,
Yeah.
And that is what the builder is going to go out and get quotes on. And, now contractors are going to be forced to quote on a project that hasn't even come out of the ground yet. And once they actually arrive at the project, it's not going to be what they anticipated. So, and who's the builder going to choose?
Yeah, it's all price driven, isn't it?
It's all price driven,
and that's why this has come up in the first place. That's why they've been asked to do a specification to try and narrow down a specific price and put out to a tender. I guess usually is what the case is, as you say. So yeah, it becomes very price sensitive. It becomes very price sensitive, and the only way that you can then therefore achieve a better price is, as a contractor, you have to deliver these projects either more efficiently so that you can protect your margin, or you simply have to just reduce your margin. And it's quite difficult to be able to even protect your margin on most projects because you're competing with obviously the material differences and all the other trades that are on site. When you're quoting a project, you can't even see how that's been run. You can't even see what stage the project is at, and all these types of things. You don't know what type of how well run the site's going to be, and if it's going to be ahead or behind when you get there. So there's so many different things that you're quoting on, and you're basically being told to put in your best price. Well, I can put in my best price if you guys have created the best environment to make this a success. It's the kind of project I walk away from. Yeah, no, that's right. You certainly need to discriminate, don't you? And not paint yourself into that corner. I do sometimes get calls from customers that are looking at something and they want to discuss it because it's a little bit outside of what they'd normally do, or it's something that has been specified or something like that. And sometimes they draw that conclusion that it might be better to walk away. And usually, fortunately, there's other jobs and things that are in their wheelhouse that they can go on with and that they can do. Yeah. I think it's just ingrained in all of us in any industry or in business that we want to win everything. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So I guess WORX Plus. Yes. Specification. Yeah. What is that specification currently? Well, I guess this is the question that's going to come out of today, isn't it? It is. And I'm going to tell you that it's a no from me. My vote is no. I don't love specifications. I'm guilty of peddling them. I can tell you that much. In early days, of course, of mechanically polished concrete, and I also spent a fair bit of time in the United States, working and living over there. And I think one of the things that you'll notice is that there's a big difference in the markets in Australia and the United States. There's a lot of differences. But one of the things that I really noticed that was different was the approach to the market between the contractors in Australia and the contractors in the US. In the United States, the market is heavily driven by chemical manufacturers. Right. So someone who manufactures densifiers, maybe some grouts and some sealers, they take their specifications to architectural firms and they say, this is a beautiful floor, this is a beautiful floor, and so is this one here, and there's 3 different types, and you can put those in your library. When you want 3 different types of beautiful floors, you just write one of those into the specifications, and that's what you're going to get. And you're going to get it for the lowest price anywhere in the world. A bit of cut and paste, which the other industry, I was involved in, and with architects, and that was the beauty of it for them. Yeah. Is that they could just cut and paste that specification, put it on the plan, and that's that done. On to the next thing. And I completely understand from an architect's perspective why you want to have that too. And I'm not advocating against that. My preference is that, particularly if we're talking about a chemical manufacturer, that's only one part of the actual process. Yeah. It's not the entire part of the manufacturing. It's like saying, if we looked at an alternative, we said, okay, we've got tiles. Architect wants to have tiles in a project, and although we don't actually manufacture the tiles, we manufacture 3 of the
ingredients that go into it. And now we're hitting the streets, going and seeing architects and saying, just specify our part of those ingredients in any of the tiles that you want in your project. And all of your projects are going to look great no matter which manufacturer that you choose. If you're using 3 of our 15 ingredients, all of your projects are going to look great. Well, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Right? And as a manufacturer, you've only got control over 3 of those ingredients, not everything else. So there's a problem there. But where I see the greatest issue is that the chemical manufacturer or the specification that goes into place, then obviously it doesn't account for all the variables. But now it comes out into market. It's time for contractors to bid on it. Contractors need to be certified in this, so they have to have attended all of the training courses and whatnot for these manufacturers to ensure that they can actually install them for the first part. And then everyone goes and they bid on these projects, and of course they put in their best price to get the project, and they either get it or they don't. But most of the projects that contractor in the United States in particular is bidding on has specifications. So I've got this one over here, this system over here, this system over here. I'm bidding on all of them. My business itself, however, that I'm building, and I'm putting my life on the line and risking, everything financially to build this business, doesn't actually have any of its own brand. So the biggest issue that I've got with specifications or following specifications, bidding on specifications as a contractor is it's not building any value in my business. If I'm doing a really great job and I'm delivering on point, on budget for the builder or the GC, and the client's very happy with what's happening, the value goes to the company that created the specification. So in this particular scenario, that might be the chemical manufacturer that specified use three parts of 15 and you'll get a great outcome. They get a pat on the back because the project looks great, but it's me, the contractor, who created a great outcome. But I haven't built any strength in my own brand. I got paid for the project, which is great, but all that I am is someone who can install a bunch of different companies' specifications. And while I might be known as delivering a good service and that sort of stuff, I'm not building any value in my own business. I'm building a lot of integrity and value in the other companies for which I'm executing. And I guess that's a personal thing for me that I don't love about it, is because to me, the whole reason for doing this type of work, for being a contractor, is to create some type of control, some type of value in what you're building, so that gives you a bit more control over what you do with your time and with your life. Hence, you're taking on the risk and going into business for yourself. So for me, it's a bit of a conflict. Oh, great, I've got all these specifications coming out, which means that work's just coming out of the sky for me, but I'm getting paid, but I'm not actually creating anything of real value in a business. Say, for instance, I'm a contractor, we take all that away, we don't do any work that's specified, and every project that we do is it's a mic floor, right? I've got a bunch of different type of mic floor standard offerings, but as the projects come out, I tailor them for those projects. And now when architects, builders, clients see the outcome, they go, fantastic. Next time I want a project done, I'll consult with Mike because that's what, he gets me the outcomes that I want. And every time we do a project, I'll say, we want these guys to do it.
Yeah, so that's your specification. I was going to say, I guess when we talk specification, we're talking, we're not talking end result, because obviously there needs to be some sort of specification as to what you need to achieve. And that's, you're right. It'd be fantastic to say there is a specification that consists of this finish and this particular company to come in and achieve said finish. to almost to an extent of we don't really mind how it gets there as long as it's the end result product that we wanted.
Yeah.
And these people absolutely have been shown and proven that they're able to achieve it.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess we're not talking zero specification, but
no, I'm not talking zero specification. Yeah. I just don't like a specification that comes out in the brief that, you know, it says this is what you have to do. You have to be certified to install it. So that means that fewer people can do it. And even if they do, you know, there's no room in there for negotiation. This is what you have to do. And so it's a race to the bottom for price.
Yep. And
then that just erodes the market and contractors aren't making money. Everyone's stressed. And what's the point of doing this?
Not everyone's stressed. I think the company that's got the specification are sitting pretty.
Exactly. It doesn't affect them at all. And look, you say that, but in most cases, even the specifier is not happy with how it comes out in the wash. Contractors aren't happy in that kind of thing, and they're not making any money, living on the streets. But they go to work for shelter. It's probably not the outcome that even the specifier wants in most cases.
Yeah. No, very good. I just made a couple of notes here, and I sort of basically just said them. And I don't think they're a super bad thing, a specification. It can be a good thing as well.
Yeah.
Because if, as I say, to have an end result specified, I don't know, even having like a particular, I don't know, a branding of products, can that be a good thing at all?
Oh, look. I encourage people, if you have a contracting business, you're not a contracting business in our line of work. You're a manufacturer. Now, show me a manufacturer, unless they do an all private label work under license. Show me a manufacturer that's not building their brand. They don't exist. So you're a manufacturer. You should be building your brand. What does that look like in other industries, particularly finishing trades? What can we learn from that? If the phone's ringing, it shouldn't be because somebody wants somebody else's product specified and they want you to install it. It should be because they want yours. And that builds value in what you're building.
A mic floor.
A mic floor, exactly. So I'm calling up, I need a mic floor. I need some consultation in this project. Can you come in or at the design phase? We need some consultation. These are the types of finishes that we want. And we've been told mic floor is a really good thing to get here. So you go and you build value in your business and you build relationships. And then you don't have this whole pricing here, because you can have a conversation about what it costs to get that type of finish. What's the budget of the project? We're talking about this early now. So yeah, I'm a strong advocate of contractors seeing themselves as manufacturers, having a brand and building value in that, rather than building it in somebody else's.
Just like any brand that is, I know I buy brands of products and that sort of thing. Certainly not price driven. It's the experience I've had with those products and that sort of thing. And as you say, you have your own product. And that's really what surely people running their own business are really trying to achieve. And that's where the heart comes in. Rather than having, providing someone else's product and you're achieving someone else's product, you're actually coming up with your own. And that's sort of the heart and soul of a business and referrals and all that sort of thing, where all that comes from. So I completely understand. So WORX Plus.
Yes.
You're not an advocate for a system per se.
Well, it's not. I would say it's not really a decision for me to make. This is the contractor's choice, right? Because
that's the real reason for this conversation today.
Got me into a corner. That's not really for us to say. I've got my own take on it, and while this might be my take, it might not be anyone else's. Contractors might say, yeah, you know what, all I want is for the phone to ring and someone say, we want this floor done, and I just go and do that. And I don't really care about my brand. I just want the paychecks to keep on coming in, and that's all I care about. That might be you. But personally, my thought is if you're putting life and limb on the line to build a business, to build a brand, you're not working for somebody else where you're building their brand. You've made the conscious decision to go out and build your own thing. Build your own thing.
Yeah.
Build some value in the business that you're building, in the brand. As soon as you start doing specifications and that sort of stuff, you have to work out, okay, how do we keep this still under our umbrella?
Yeah.
How do we still make that ours? And that could be seeing yourself as a partnership with that specification.
Mm-hmm.
You're very well known for being able to deliver that. That's great. But diluting your own brand, I'm not an advocate for. That's hard to do when all the work that comes out is just delivering on specifications. We don't get that in Australia. A lot of contractors, a lot of owners of the companies are still on the tools.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, this is not usually the case.
No, okay.
I've met with a lot of concrete grinding and polishing outfits where the owner has never even touched a grinder before in 20 years. That's their business, but they've got a bunch of guys in their business that do that work. So it's a really, really different model in the US than it is over here. Our model is also very different in that most companies over here see themselves as a brand. A lot of companies get called up and they say, we're asking for this company specifically, this brand specifically. That's what we're calling for. The specification side of things might look attractive, particularly when the phone's not ringing, because you haven't been building your brand out there. You haven't got the recognition.
Yep.
Now the pot starts to dry up a bit and you see other people out doing work, particularly if they're doing specified work, or now you're having to look further outside of your nucleus for work, and now you're talking to new builders or new clients, prospective clients, and the specifications there, and you're not certified. Now you feel locked out. You might think, oh, gee, I wish I had a specification, or I wish I was certified for all of those things, because for the last 5 years I've just been building my own thing. Well, guess what? Keep building your own thing.
Yes.
So there's a big difference between the US market and the Australian market. And I would still be advocating the same thing for the US market.
Yep.
Start building your own brand. Get known for what you're delivering. Build the relationships with the architects, with the GCs, with your brand, and start getting away from these other guys that are controlling the market, and controlling the price, because you want to have that control for yourself.
Yeah,
you're the one who's taking on all the risk here.
No, that's right, and that's, I think, a big thing with I guess having your own business. Again, I suppose in any industry is the risk factor and that sort of thing as well. So I suppose you want to align yourself with good products and that sort of thing there. But you don't want to be, I guess, tarred with that same brush as everyone else. You want to point a difference.
Yeah, correct.
You want to be the go-to.
Yeah, and hey, look, everyone might say, you know what, we don't want that. We want WORX Plus to have a mic floor. We want WORX Plus to have a specification.
It'd be a good-looking floor, by the way. Let's get that straight.
Yes, it certainly would. I mean, when you're starting with the bars already this high, So our customer base might say, no, we actually want a specification. Now, that'd be a very hard thing for us to do, because we want to be able to build a lot of value in that, and we actually want to make sure that contractors are getting paid the right kind of money to do those projects. And that's hard to do when you're saying, well, this firm over here wants to have a specification, a system in place. Well, that's a system, and how do we make sure that on the actual project that's being delivered on, it's the right system for the materials once they've been installed, and then the contractor's actually going to be able to make money on that. So that's where the difficulty is for me. Yeah,
the juggling act. And we're kind of talking about sales a bit here, which is a little bit in my wheelhouse. And one thing we always talk about in sales, and I was taught a long time ago in sales, is that if pricing is an issue, if something seems too expensive, and obviously you believe it's not, and there is value in the product, you haven't relayed that value across enough and built that value to for that pricing to not be an issue. And by the way, this product we're talking about is the business.
Yeah, correct.
So building that value, again, the conversation between the architect or the builder and the client is, look, I use this particular person. They're not going to be the readiest available, and nor would they be the cheapest, but I can promise you the results are just second to none. So we've got to ring up and we've got to get that mic floor. Absolutely. So yeah, certainly from a sales point of view, building brand and building that brand, and that brand being its product. And when I am out on site talking to customers and things like that, it's great because, you know, I've not had my own concrete grinding and polishing business, but I have been in sales a long time. So, you know, I can sort of talk to people about that, and it's great, and people really appreciate it, and they come out of that conversation, you can see, with their head held high and, you know, and things like that. And you know, it's a great thing. So, yeah, absolutely. Anything to help people get to that sort of scenario.
And there's also a caveat to what I've said, because I'm talking about small contractors here.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
Now, if we talk large commercial, let's think about
which is what I thought of when you were sort of talking about the US market. It is a bit more commercial orientated. That's where it sort of started from, wasn't it?
Yeah. Correct. So if we talk large commercial and we're talking specifications, we're talking about companies that have been involved in all of, I guess, formulating the ingredient side of a project. There is still a purpose for these guys. You talk about, big, say we're building Amazons all over the world, right? And we're talking large scale production and all that sort of stuff. These are the type of projects where you need the best minds in the world for getting really good outcomes. Most of the small contractors are not going to have that experience of understanding all the different types of materials globally to make a brand like that consistent globally. And that's where I see specifications actually coming into their own, in that they are able to keep consistency on a large scale. And you're going to have not just the manufacturer or the chemical manufacturer's minds there. You're going to have everyone in the construction process best minds on the project to make sure that the global rollout is consistent. In those particular scenarios, I think specifications work very, very well.
So really, we're talking about one set of specifications for a big 2,000 square block factory versus a $1 million beautiful home. So yeah, obviously there's going to be two different scenarios, very black and white there, as far as having a set system or a set process for that big commercial factory. Fantastic. But it's not going to be the same as going in to achieve a result in $1 million home.
Correct. And I think I'd probably agree with you and disagree with you. I agree with you in the absolutely in the commercial and the domestic. I would say probably something bigger than 2,000 square meters. I think most guys who are doing domestic and can handle that 300, 400, 500 square meters in a residential project have the capacity to deliver in 2,000. But once we start getting up around 8 to 10,000, we're talking about a completely different pricing structure, completely different client, and everything affects everything in those projects. So I think that's where we start to see we need a different set of minds coming together on those projects to make them successful.
So yeah, a greater meterage. So I guess more opportunity for things to go sideways a little bit. And if they do, it's going to be exacerbated unless it's picked up early enough. Yeah,
correct. Because if we're talking about, say, for instance, a 10,000 square meter warehouse, who's putting product into a 10,000 square meter warehouse? A large company that works on really narrow margins and high volumes. So if something goes slightly sideways, it has a really, a broad knock-on effect. Whereas in the smaller projects, there's a bit more wiggle room. There's not the same type of issue that has that knock-on effect. Completely just a completely different client base.
Samples.
Oh, yes, always.
So we might have changed formats, but we still advocate samples. Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah.
No, that's very good. I'm trying to think if I'm I guess when you're talking, I keep thinking the same thing in my head as well. And it's important to say that this isn't a black and white conversation. Obviously, it's a bit of a grey area, and that's why we're discussing it and that sort of thing. And as much as I keep trying to paint you into a corner, you keep pushing your way out, and it's fair enough because, it isn't a black and white answer. There is good things for and bad for both aspects. But I think it's a very narrow point of view if it's just specifications. I think there needs to be room for wiggle room, if you like.
I can see opportunity for mic floor in the big boxes. I can see some value for that. I can't see it in the under 2,000 square meters.
Yeah, in the high end sort of high polish. Show house type.
People are buying brands there.
Yeah. And it's what I hear generally with customers out on site and that sort of thing that, they've got their builders and that sort of thing that they deal with on a consistent level and consistent basis and that's their main business. But the bigger commercial guys, it can be for that same reason that they've got their same builders and things, but it can be for different reasons altogether. It turns from a finishing reason that they've got them in. It turns out to a time reason that they get them in and out.
Yep.
In and out and that sort of thing there. So, as I say, love to get feedback. It is a discussion. I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion.
No, we have.
And we've come to a conclusion?
Yeah.
That there's no conclusion.
No, we're not doing it.
No, we're not doing it?
No.
Because I want to come to a conclusion. I was thinking about before this chat and making notes and things about, why I think one is better than the other, but I can't. Because the minute I think there's something good for one side, but it's in the other side and that sort of thing there. But
I'm convinced.
I'm
convinced, yeah.
If you back me into a corner, I would say no specification.
No specification. Okay, so I should try this a bit more bluntly then.
I would say no specification because, I'd like to buy, but that's me because, I like to buy the brand.
Yeah.
And that's in home appliances, services that I use in my life and things like that. I'm a big believer in the brands, but maybe that's because I'm a salesperson.
So when you're shopping, you don't send out a request to tender to JB Hi-Fi or something like that, Harvey Norman, and say, I want a phone that does all of these things and it's got to be made of this, that, and the other, and I invite you to send me your best offer? No.
And I'm not adverse to switching brands, but geez, there needs to be a good reason because I am a brand buyer, 100%. That's why my washing and drying is done in my washing machine. It comes up on my television that your washing is now done and things like that because everything talks to each other and everything works in unison and in conjunction, and that's a big factor for me. And I guess.
Do you have a thing? Oh, on my watch, it just came up, your pants are soiled. Oh.
No, but my Samsung watch, shouldn't say brands maybe, but yes, my watch talks to my phone and my phone talks to my TV and my washing machine and my dryer and everything else. But I guess, I like systems. I like processes. But I also like the fact that if I need to veer off in a different direction for a particular something, then I've got the freedom to do it because it's in the greater good for my ecosystem, if you like.
I kind of feel like you're coming over to my side.
I am a little bit, but then I'll come back again. So yes, no, it is a bit of a tricky one, but I am also a firm believer that having the right recipe and that sort of thing can be definitely advantageous as far as if things do go wrong, if things do go sideways, it's a lot easier to pick up on what may have happened.
Sure.
If things are known, I guess if I have one particular thing that's not talking to another thing because it's a different brand, and it can become very, very clunky and that sort of thing there. So I am a big fan of that. It helps with the roadmap as far as coming along. It's like getting a call from a customer that's had an issue, and there's been different products from different ranges used.
Trying to sync my Samsung with my iCloud or whatever it's called.
Absolutely.
Yeah, things aren't working. What's going on here?
In which case, I just say, look, unfortunately, I can't help you, and I hang up the phone. But no, I don't. But it just becomes quite difficult and to sort of pick up.
Okay, if we're talking about that as a scenario,
yes.
What I want to see in our industry is not salespeople pushing one brand. I'd like to see people who have the skill to work at an Apple store and at the Samsung shop, because they fundamentally understand the platforms and how they work. They could understand integration.
Mm-hmm.
If we just go with keeping people siloed in Apple and siloed in Samsung, they'll never know, A, what they're missing out on, but they'll also never have a good understanding of what makes those two platforms work.
So I'm actually going to Josh's phone shop.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're saying.
And that's what that to me is how I view contractors as manufacturers. They got to know their stuff.
Yep.
But like I said, hey, I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is my dream. You guys might say, no, that's not what we want. We just want Apple, or we just want Samsung or Android, whatever you call them. I don't know. That's all I want. See how versed I am in that stuff. You might say, I just want to be able to buy that, and that's all I want to do. I just want to go to work every day, know that I'm installing a mic floor, and that's it. How do we make that happen? How do we remove all of the as many of the, I guess, the negative aspects of specifications? How do we remove as much of that to make it as good of an experience for the contractor, the owner, architects, everyone who's involved, all the stakeholders? And you might turn around and say, well, that's what we want, and I'll just go.
See what you've done? You've upset Josh now. But yeah, no, it's just talking about that particular scenario, going to Josh's phones rather than going to any particular sort of manufacturer or something like that. I'm coming to you because then I can tell you what I want, and then you can tell me what's best going to suit. Yeah. And I almost don't care what box you slide in front of me. I'll just pay my money. And thanks very much, Josh, and I'll see you next time. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
To Samsung.
That wasn't the end of the... But it's funny. It's probably a good analogy, which I didn't even really think of until we were talking about it. But absolutely. Sorry.
Well, yes. I'm glad we didn't talk about Lego and Duplo and Technique. Okay.
Lego fan all the way. All right. Lovely. Well, discussion has been had.
And it was civil too, wasn't it?
It was reasonably civil. You did kick me under the desk a few times. I don't know what that was about.
I don't think anyone else saw that though.
There is one specification that I can strongly say that I do advocate, and that is get onto the podcast channel. Leave some comments, whatever platform it might be. We are on several different platforms, so advocate that one for sure. Yeah,
well, I guess the question still remains, that you've heard my perspective, you've heard Mike's perspective. What's your perspective?
Yeah.
Is there a WORX Plus? Is there a WORX Plus specification, or are we just helping you guys build your own brands?
I'd like to think the latter.
Same.
We do agree on something. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Josh.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mike.
This show is proudly supported by WORX Plus. WORX Plus brings total solutions to all concrete grinding and polishing contractors to make it totally work for their daily operations. We hope you've enjoyed this show. Make sure to tune in each week where we're going to dive deep into all things related to concrete grinding and polishing. We're here to help you so that you can boost your outcomes on the floor.